Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 16 of the Crickpicks podcast. I'm Behram, who you can find at DefMango on Twitter. With me is Estelle Vasudevan, who you can find at Estelle Vasude _1 on Twitter.
Are you sure there's an underscore in it?
Yes.
She's not sure what her
We
Twitter
made
handle is.
sure that there is an underscore over there because
I know you've made mistakes with it, but she's made mistakes with it, is all I'm saying.
You need to change that handle, Estelle. There's got to be a better option out there. And of course, as you guys all know, Jarrod's with us as well, who you can find everywhere. And for those of you who are new to this podcast, what we do is that we take any generic cricket category and draft our top 5 picks in it. And it's a snake style draft. So we go 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. That's basically the order. And Estelle is going first today. And the topic is all-time 5-man T20 bowling attack, which I really, really enjoyed when Estelle recommended it. I was like, yes, we have to do this.
Yeah, it was a good one, wasn't it? I mean, for a moment, I thought we should maybe do a current one. But anyway, we're going with all-time. I know
That's next week.
I know there's an obvious first pick. For me, it was between Jasprit Bumrah and Lasith Malinga. And I'm going with Malinga just because of kind of the fact that he kind of revolutionized that death bowling, the Yorkers. I mean, of course, it existed before him, but he was kind of one of the first guys who could nail the Yorker at any given time, right? And also the fact that he was in a Sri Lankan team which over the course of 5 to 6 years made every tournament final, right? 3 T20 World Cup finals, including 1 win, in which he was a huge star. So between the two, I think I would go with Lasith Malinga.
Yeah, I definitely had him in my top 5. Wouldn't have been my first pick, though. But, I mean, no one can argue Malinga's credentials in T20 cricket. Like you said, Yorkers at will and death bowling supremo. And, yeah, someone who in the early days of T20 cricket was pretty much unplayable.
Yeah, he's an incredible player, but also I just think that neither of us were going to pick him first. So I'd like to thank Estelle for leaving the other players on the board.
All right, I think, Jarrod, you're next.
I'm next. Okay. I am going to go with Rashid Khan then.
You stole my first pick. But I thought that was going to be everyone's first pick.
I wasn't 100% sure. I had 2 players as my number 1 or 2, and I wasn't really sure which order to go. But I'll go Rashid Khan. I think he's had the biggest impact on the most amount of games. And also, I think the one difference with Rashid Khan is there's some other fantastic bowlers on this list. But they become so good that people end up defending them and they stop taking wickets. He hasn't really stopped taking wickets. You can't, whether you defend him or you attack him, it doesn't matter. And I remember the further he went in his career, the more I was told by people, he'll be found out. I'm still waiting for him to be found out. Like, when is this found out going to happen? I think that's an easy one for me, Rashid Khan.
Yeah, no, absolute cheat code in T20 cricket.
Yeah, and I remember that early in his career, right? There was that argument that, he's playing a lot of lesser sides and that's why he's able to pick up wickets. But he hasn't really slowed down at all, even after he's begun playing the top countries.
Yeah, he's unreal, really, in the format. Pretty much the first name on anyone's current, best T20 team sheet. And it makes sense that he was your first pick. He was going to be mine as well. And yeah, I mean, you need a leg spinner, right? So I have 2 picks in a row. Of course, Rashid Khan is off the table now. And I'm thinking I need to go with someone who is, I need to go with a fast bowler and a leg spinner because those are 2 commodities that I really need in this bowling attack. Thanks for leaving Jasprit Bumrah for me, guys. Really happy about that because I was like, I have third pick, so I'm not getting Rashid or Bumrah, but thanks to Estelle, I do have Jasprit Bumrah now.
Yeah, I think one reason I didn't go Bumrah is I thought Rashid is harder to replace. Whereas I think as good as Bumrah is, there's a couple of other bowlers who are absolutely, I mean, Malinga's one of them, right? That were out there. But yeah, I mean, obviously this, 1, 2, 3, you could easily have Bumrah 1, Rashid 2, Malinga 3, or you could have, Malinga 2 as well. So I think it's a bit of a toss-up, and I'm not surprised that the Sri Lankan went with a Sri Lankan and the leg spinner went with a leg spinner.
And the Pakistani went with an Indian.
That slightly more surprising, but I can see why you went there. No, I mean, he's incredible. And he is one of those players who sometimes his numbers don't look as good as his impact is, because teams literally defend. I remember one team saying to us that if we can get 7 runs and over off him at the death without taking any risks, that's the best option against him, right? So that means at the other end, they're trying to hit 14 runs and over. That's the kind of impact he can have on a cricket team.
Yeah, and I mean, if we talk about skill set and his armory, fewer fast bowlers could match that. He has a killer Yorker as well. So even though he's known for those defensive lines, he can pitch it up and get your wicket, right? Amazing with the new ball, amazing at the death. He is an all-phase superstar. So really wasn't hard for me to pick Jasprit Bumrah as my number 1 pick. Number 2 is interesting. I wanted Rashid as my leg spinner, but of course it was always going to be, pretty much impossible to have both Bumrah and Rashid in your 5-man bowling attack in this draft at least. So I'm going to go with the only other leg spinner who I could think of who has an economy of under 7 in T20 cricket and also took heaps of wickets. I'm going to go with Shahid Afridi. And peak Afridi back in the day, you could not cut him. That was one thing, right? That was, the 2009 T20 World Cup. He was the superstar of that entire tournament with the ball, with the bat. Even in 2007, he was really, really good. And for a good 5 to 6 years of Afridi's career, he was an elite white ball leg spinner. Yeah. And I think that, peak Afridi makes it to this team. Rashid Khan is inspired by peak Afridi. So there's a bit of that.
I don't think you need to justify that. I had him as my 4th highest rated spinner. So I had a couple others ahead of him. But if he plays his entire career in T20 cricket, rather than when he was about 58, I think he probably would be maybe, certainly in the top 3 without any doubt, and maybe even higher than that. He's a fantastic player. For this, we're not really worried about batting, but I think people have forgotten just how good a bowler Shahid Afridi was. And you could also, Afridi and Kumble, Kumble might not make the list today, but Kumble's another one where they were just brilliant at the start. And Warren, all 3 of those guys proved... it kind of proved why Rashid Khan would go on to be as good as he was, because there was already a template with those older guys, even if they weren't taking it that seriously and weren't playing all that much. And so, he was absolutely great. I remember he played for Hampshire, and it was when he made his first 100. Before that, I'm going to throw George Bailey under the bus here. And me and George Bailey were like Afridi, I think there was, I could be wrong, but I think there was a game where Hampshire didn't know where he was. And he was off opening a restaurant somewhere in Netherlands or something stupid like that. It was some random story. And me and Bales were talking about him. And we were like, I said, what's he look like in the nets? Because I just seen him bat and he looked like he couldn't bat anymore. And Bales is like, I don't know if he's going to make any runs. And I said, what about his bowling? He goes, it's still as good as ever. And I think that game he went on to bowl really well at the Rose Bowl. But then the following game, Afridi made his first 100. It was... I've seen 2 of the weirdest 100s of my life were both at Derby. It was Harmanpreet's 100, where she could have been caught at mid-wicket 83 times, and Afridi's 100, where he basically was hitting guys who were bowling 78 miles an hour, and when there was a quick bowler at the other end, he would sprint to get off strike, tip and run. It was because he was just old, he just couldn't pick the ball up anymore. But when he hit the ball, obviously it was incredible. I've got no issue with him being in the top. I mean, you're probably taking him too high from a draft perspective, just because I don't think me or Estelle were going to take him straight away. So I
wanted a leg spinner right away because I knew that's a hot commodity and I wanted one of the better ones. And also, I find it amazing that Afridi's best years came when he was around actually 40 or something in T20 cricket. That drift that he used to get is why he's my number 2 pick, basically.
No. Yeah, but on paper, 22, right?
No. On paper, he's whatever.
He was 12. He was constantly 12.
Yeah. He's still 12.
Estelle, what have you got?
No, it's you.
I think
Is
it's
it?
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is me. It is me. Okay. So I am not going to take another spin. Okay, I'm going to go Mitchell Starc,
Good one.
who unfortunately the last couple of years is and didn't play enough IPL cricket and probably didn't play enough T20 cricket in general. Like I think if you saw peak Starc, he wasn't the same kind of bowler as Bumrah or Malinga, but he had a similar kind of impact, but just didn't play as many games. And we know from one-day cricket how incredible he was as well. And he was, that 1 year he played in the IPL where I think he had a bowling average of like 11 or something. I think now, I'm not sure this year it's going to hold up because I don't think he's the same bowler as he was when he was younger. But peak Starc, I think, was certainly in the top 5 T20 bowlers I've ever seen, without a doubt. And gives you've automatically got in him 2 things straight away, which is a fast bowler and a left armer. So you've got 2 things covered, and then you throw in the fact that he was unplayable at the death. Outside of Malinga and Bumrah, who I think are obvious choices, I think Starc should be the 3rd best seamer at his peak in T20 cricket.
Yeah, his economy, much like Bumrah, hovers around 7, which is great. And like you said, hasn't played enough T20 cricket. But when we have seen him play, any format for that matter, like Starc has that X factor. And you've got a left-hander, right? Those are going to be hard to pick over here. So fantastic pick, I'd say.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if we were doing this a couple of years ago, I think he would have been... he would have been in an argument to be even slightly higher because I think he's a much better new ball bowler than Malinga. But he averages under 20 in T20 cricket at 7.5 runs and over, and could never get hit at the death, despite the fact he's an attacking bowler. Like he just had so many things going for him as a player. Now it's Estelle. Sorry, I skipped
also
it before.
Most lucrative auctioned player ever in the IPL. He's gone for the most money ever. So there's that.
Yeah, and the thing is, what he should have gone for in his peak was probably even more than that.
Yeah, probably.
Just imagine if he was available, right? Okay, so I've got 2 picks. And my first one's going to be a leg spinner. Samuel Badri. I think at his peak.
Damn it.
I
didn't think anyone would take him that high.
I had a feeling Jarrod probably had him in his list. But in his peak, he was such a superb bowler, particularly in that first power play. Just the way he was able to keep the runs down. He was one of those key bowlers in that West Indian lineup, I think, that won a couple of World Cups. Kind of got overshadowed a bit by the fact that Narayan was also in that side, right? But as a leg spinner and especially as a defensive option, I think he was superb for the West Indies.
Yeah. I mean, also like the thing that you could do, and you haven't really built your team this way. Who knows what your next pick is going to be? But the thing with Badri is that you can use him in those first 10 overs. So obviously he's brilliant with the new ball, but he can bowl the 7th and the 8th and 9th overs as well, which allows you, if you have, especially if you have someone like Rashid or Narayan, to bowl slightly later. And so you have one spinner at one end almost all the way through the innings, and everyone is being used perfectly for themselves. And he did have Narayan at times, but he also bowled with Suleiman Ben. Like it wasn't like the other spinner was always great. And but Badri is absolutely fantastic. I've been lucky enough to work with him a few times. Really smart, the way he thinks about cricket. And I've said this before, but he's the only player I ever dealt with who, when I asked to interview him, he said he would only do it as a written interview. And like, I was like, okay. And literally, he sent me back the most grammatically correct responses I have ever seen. And he's such a perfectionist. I called him a teacher, and he was a teacher, right? But now he's like, I don't know, like Board of Education General or whatever positions he kept going up. And like every time I called him a teacher, he corrects me. And I was like, see, you are a teacher. But yeah, absolutely fantastic cricketer. Should have played a lot more in the IPL. I think in those early days, people didn't really understand having a spinner who was an opening bowler. He couldn't bat, he couldn't field. And I think in those days, they thought, oh, we can get other Indian spinners who can do this. There isn't another Samuel Badri. We haven't really seen one since. Peak Shadab and peak Yasir could do it for like a couple of years. Badri did it all the way through.
Yeah, and he's a T20 World Cup winner, which, by the way, Estelle has 2 of them. So that's a fantastic start for her. And she's also, like, all of us now have a leg spinner in our bowling attack. So let's see if there are any more leg spinners that get picked. I'll be curious to see that.
Yeah, for my second one, I'm going to go with a mystery spinner. I'll go with Sunil Narayan to partner
Oh
with.
my God.
Yeah. Oh, why would you do this to us?
I
That was
gave
my
you guys
next
a
pick.
freebie by picking Malinga first. So
Oh,
Fair
that's
enough.
yeah,
so
so
annoying.
Narayan, there isn't much like to say about him. He was incredible, right? And whether it was franchise cricket or international cricket, no matter what, how much time went by, he never got figured out. Like, I mean, if I'm comparing him with Ajantha Mendis, who had like a fantastic run of a few years in all formats, once he got found out, he wasn't able to evolve and, keep himself ahead of the game, right? But Sunil Narayan has done that. And I think since we're picking 5 bowlers, I also felt it was necessary to kind of have some guys who could probably bat in the top 7. So he's someone who you can probably use as a pinch hitter or someone up the order as well. So number 3 for me, Sunil Narayan.
That's a fantastic point. I mean, of course, Narayan does pick himself because he is one of the all-time greatest T20 spinners ever. But you make a really good point how, if we're picking 5 bowlers or a 5-man bowling attack, in a real team, you need to have some depth in that team with the bat. So I believe that batting point actually does kind of count.
Yeah, I think also just on the line of the fact that the first part of his career, obviously his action completely degraded by the end, and he wasn't the kind of bowler that everyone sort of he wasn't the sort of bowler that instantly everyone thought, everything's fine there. And so he goes off and he remodels himself and completely changes it and starts bowling the knuckleball and is still really effective and has had some great seasons since then as well. But that peak period of around 2013, 2014, I don't know how you were supposed to play him as a as a batter, and just absolutely dominated all the way through.
So who's opening the bowling for you, Estelle?
I will tell you once all 5 are picked.
Fair enough.
That was a bit early, that call. Okay, well, I'm shattered here because I was keeping Badri for later because I thought you both might sleep on Badri. And when Estelle said Badri, I was like, well, she has to pick a quick next. And she went with Narayan. And so, but every angle that I had has been taken away here. So, all right, I might just play it safe and take off one of the new ball bowlers, and I'm going to take Shaheen Afridi, who I think.
Oh my God, you took 2 left-handers?
Yeah.
Why would you do this to us?
Because, I'm not going to go through, but my other new ball bowlers, I know I do have another left armer in there as well. No, I think I can slip through my other choices later on, but Shaheen with Behram with 2 picks coming up, I just thought I might struggle. I know he hasn't been as good recently, but everyone knows at his peak he was a bit like Stark, just absolutely on another level, like of impossible to play. I think that Behrendorff still has the best record ever in a power play, and we know he's never been fit enough to make it work in the IPL and some of the other leagues. But Shaheen Afridi did what Behrendorff did everywhere for a long period, and again was one of those players that teams started defending. So yeah, I'm going to go Shaheen Afridi. So I've got the two left armers and the wrist spinner here. So maybe the most obvious choices, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, your second turn has really benefited you because you have ended up with Shaheen, Stark, and Rashid. And I mean, I know Shaheen's drop-off has been a bit of an issue these days and it's being talked about, but he's still 22, 23, and
I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I mean, I am worried about that, but I assume he is going to get better, right? Like I assume that is going to come back.
Yeah, peak Shaheen guarantees you first over wickets, so solid pick. My picks were Narayan and Shaheen, so you guys have kind of screwed me over. And now I'm going to go with a couple of Pakistani picks. So a lot of people in the comments will say, oh, Behram is being biased, this, that, the other. This is supposed to be one of those shows. You pick your favorite players, and yes, there's a bit of objectivity in there. But honestly, the 2 names that I'm about to take, they do kind of pick themselves. Third pick for me is Umar Gul. I think bona fide T20 legend, all-time great hit Yorkers for fun. I've seen Umar Gul nail 6 Yorkers in an over. And he was essential to Pakistan's initial T20 World Cup campaigns and was a World Cup winner with them as well in 2009. Injury kind of ruined his career, but this is someone who can bowl all 4 death overs for me. Like, he can start bowling in over 12 and go all the way to the end. That's how I plan to use Umar Gul in this team. And I think that sometimes I feel he doesn't get those plaudits that he deserves. Like, people have kind of forgotten just how good Umar Gul was. So yeah, not really particularly, wasn't a tough pick for me.
His figures are very similar to Mitchell Stark's, I think. And I don't know if they played a similar amount of games as well. What Umar Gul played? Yeah, Umar Gul's even played more games. Probably of the lower level, slightly. Some of those games were probably of a slightly lower level. Yeah, at his best, he absolutely deserves to be in there. I think he's kind of forgotten because Malinga comes on the back of Umar Gul and probably just had better figures again and was a bigger impact. But that sort of 2008, 2009 period, Umar Gul was the bowler in T20 cricket, right? And absolutely fantastic. And just the only thing for me, and the only reason I didn't have him higher on my list, is because he kind of bowls before the scoops become a massive thing. And I'm not sure he had the slower ball or the situational awareness to be able to handle those kinds of shots. But that's not his fault. He just did, you could say the same with McGrath. I think McGrath is not that far away. Like, McGrath was incredible early on. You probably wouldn't put him on because he didn't play enough, but he was incredible early on. But how would McGrath have handled those sorts of shots as well? But other than that, Umar Gul, absolutely, certainly one of the best death bowlers of all time and one of the most impactful sort of late over. Like, as you said, it's not just about the death. Probably from the 10th or 12th over onwards, he just always had such a big impact.
Yeah, and he could reverse it in T20 games, right? I've seen him do that. So that was a big plus with him.
So what he used to do is he had this trick to scuff up the ball, which is genius, right? Where he would, I'm gonna have to stand up for this, everyone. So, right? So he would be, I'm trying to get it in the camera.
Yeah, you're in
do
the
it
camera.
here. I'll do it on my chest. So he would do this and look like he was polishing the ball, and the other side of his ball, the other side of his hand, he would just be roughing up the ball the entire time. And I promise you, this became a huge thing in T20 cricket. Teams kept trying to do it. But here's the thing. He's still got more reverse swing than anyone else, right? Like, it wasn't, it was his extra pace, the skill of his wrist and everything else, and just an absolute genius. And to be honest, teams were really struggling to do reverse swing in that format of the game early on. And he worked out exactly how to nail it. So, yeah, just next level.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll get to my next pick now. Of course, I have Gul and Afridi. So that's 2 people from the 2009 team. I'm going to go with an off-spinner from the same team. Saeed Ajmal will make it. I know everyone remembers him for the Hussey sixes. And of course, those sixes are something no one can ever forget for whoever has witnessed them in the flesh or even on TV. And if you take that out, Hussey sixes aside, I think he was a fantastic T20 bowler. Like, all the way through, up until he got called out for his action, no one could really pick Saeed Ajmal's Dusra across formats. And I think he was the off-spinner of his era, right? Post-Murli, pre-Ashwin, it was Ajmal era. And he had the attitude of a fast bowler, right? He had those crazy eyes. He would give those crazy eyes to batters as well. And he can bowl all the way through the middle overs for me with Afridi before Gul kicks in at the death, right? So that's kind of where I'm going with this team. And I mean, those 3 guys are T20 World Cup winners. You can call me biased or whatever. That is the basis of the show. That's what it is by design. And I mean, after Narayan, I was thinking of other off-spinners who could make the cut. And Ajmal's economy was in and around 6, which is amazing. And was a bit defensive, but people couldn't read him. So he'd still end up getting heaps of wickets.
His figures are almost identical to Rashid Khan's. I don't think people know remember how good he was. Obviously, he just dropped off once his action, and we've all seen the podcast where he doesn't like science. But he was impossible to play. He was basically the off-spin version of Rashid Khan because he bowled so fast and spun it in both directions. I don't know what you were supposed to do against him, and absolutely brilliant from that perspective. It was impossible to hit him. Three Pakistanis, all from old era, by the way. But anyway,
Yeah, and
No
also
judgments here.
interesting that you pick Gul and Ajmal back to back, because remember that time, and this is in ODI cricket, I think, when they had that bowling power play where you pick the 5 overs where you want
I
to.
remember that.
Yeah, and those guys would just bowl the 5 overs, and people would get less runs than they get in the other overs
Yeah.
at the death, right? They were incredible.
Yeah. Also, those three guys together wreaked a lot of havoc, right? Like for Pakistan, they were amazing as a partnership. I mean, Hafiz, Ajmal, and Afridi were the spin trio, and Gul was in and around. But I've paired up Ajmal with Afridi, like you've paired up Badri with Narayan. So that's got to make my team chemistry better. It has
Could
to.
Ajmal bowl with a new ball?
I haven't seen him do that much. It was Hafiz who would usually bowl with the new ball, right? Ajmal was always middle overs. But
Okay.
people would
So
not
no,
get any runs in the middle overs. So
you've gone with a very conventional lineup then, because you're both of your spinners are going to bowl in the middle, aren't they? So
yeah.
Anyway. All right. So I need my fourth pick, and I need some pace.
You need more pace after Stark and Shaheen.
Of course, I need more pace. So I need to work out if I want a proper bowler, or I just want pace, or whether I can do a combination of both. I am going to go with Dale Steyn.
He was my next pick.
I think, again, one of the most slept on T20 players. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he wasn't thought of as a great player in T20 cricket. But he was absolutely incredible. And I remember once, I think it was one of my editors said to me, you should write a piece about how for the first time ever, the best test bowler isn't automatically the best white ball bowler. And then we looked into his figures and we were like, we can no longer make this piece. So in the IPL, 95 matches, and he had an economy of 6.9, and also went at 25. Took wickets at 25. Again, he was being blocked out for big points. A part of that, you can bowl him at any point in the game. His overall T20 figures are like 22 and under 7. He's Dale Steyn. Like, I think there are better out and out fast bowlers. Rabada is a really interesting one. And I thought about Nortje and Lockie. I'm huge fans of, I know Nortje's been injured, but Nortje at his best was almost as good as I've seen in T20 cricket. And Lockie obviously was fantastic as well. But the thing is, with all those other guys, as good as they are, Steyn is just maybe as good as any of them at different bits. And if you go back to his peak pace, he was quick as anything. And I've got, now I've got another bowler if I want to use the new ball, but Steyn also doesn't have to use the new ball. And I think, and Steyn and Stark, you could almost swap them around and pick them when you want them to use a new ball and when you don't want them to use a new ball, and they would be just as effective. So that was the only reason I almost went with Lockie. But I mean, Lockie's been struggling in the last couple of years, but I think career-wise, Lockie's still incredible. But I'll go with Steyn.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have slept on his T20 career. I was checking out his numbers just before this podcast, and the economy is unreal. And then everyone remembers Dale Steyn and what he could do with that ball. New ball, old ball, whatever, right? He would get amazing shape, and he was the sort of bowler who would, strike fear in opposition batters. Like, they would be afraid to face him. Ask Mohammad Hafiz, right? So, I mean, I definitely had him in my list. Obviously, like, I was going to save him for last because I thought you guys would sleep on him too. But that's fine. I still have some more guys who I can go for my last pick.
Okay, so me with my last two, right?
Yes.
Okay, so since Jarrod's taken the two best left armers
I'm
off the
thinking
table,
it's going to be what's his name? Udana,
Yeah.
and Madhushanka.
yeah, he can bat as well, right?
He could, by the end of his career, I'm not sure he could bat or bowl. But sorry, who's your fourth pick?
My fourth pick is, I'm going with Trent Bolt. I think beyond Stark and Shaheen, he's probably been kind of in this era the best left arm bowler we've seen. His ability with the new ball in particular is really good, I think.
Mhm.
And as Behram asked me, I had to think about who's taking the new ball for me. So it'll probably be him and Badri. Um,
Kind of
yeah, I
screwed
think it's
myself
a
over there.
pretty straightforward pick, right? Because you want to
Yeah.
have a left armor in your attack as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bolt is one of those guys who I'm actually surprised it's taken all of us so long to pick him, because I expected him to be amongst the top 10 picks. And
I don't
yeah,
think he was always an order. Like if you compare him to Umar Gul and to Mitchell Stark and some of these other guys, they were pretty much great all the way through. Whereas I think Bolt has got considerably better over time. And remember, so when he went to Mumbai, like I think he was traded for like a can of beans, right? Like it wasn't up even at that point. It wasn't thought it was going to be an automatic. And since then, I think he's gone on to just improve as a player again and again. So I do think he's probably maybe been a little bit slept on. And the other thing is that if you compare him to Stain or Shaheen or Stark, you know, and Malinga and some of these and Boomer and some of these other guys, just not he's not got the impact at the death, right? Like it's not that he's a bad death bowler, but he's not like a massive plus at the death where you can't hit him. And you know, Shaheen shows signs of that sometimes as well. But I think with Bolt, it's probably something that happens a bit more often, right? Where you think, is he a good death bowler? And I think he's a much better death bowler now than he was when he was younger. But I think so. I think there's a couple of reasons why Bolt is not an automatic top sort of 5 seamer.
I mean, he's developed the knuckle ball now, so that'll help his stealth team.
That's what I mean. That all that sort of stuff is, you know, takes him to another level, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now
All right, last pick.
Look at Estelle, hoping we're going to talk longer.
She's thinking.
You can actually see her going, oh my God, let's hope Jarrod goes on a rant. Maybe Jarrod's got 7 minutes here.
Keep talking.
She's got Malinga. She's got Malinga at the death. She's got Trent Bolt and one of Narayan and Badri with the new ball, right? So she needs
so Bolt and Badri. Bolt and Badri is going to bowl 4 overs up front. Malinga will bowl 1. And then you've got Narayan throughout the middle. So so she needs probably like an enforcing seamer to bowl in the middle overs.
That's what she needs.
Or she needs a Umar Gul type, you know, death bowler who can bowl in the middle as well.
Okay, so
interesting.
I'm going with my picks. I think I need someone who can bowl really fast, right? So although Malinga was quick early on, he kind of gave that up a bit to the latter part of his career. So I'm going with someone who hasn't played a lot of T20 cricket. I go with Brett Lee. I think he brings the pace. Also has had success in franchise tournaments, so you know he can handle T20 cricket. He was just, you know, that attack Australia had. He was kind of the X factor, right, at that point. And I think if he had played a little later, he would have had so many more opportunities. He did play in the IPL in the earlier seasons as well. He would have had a lot more opportunities, I think, if he played in a later era. I think at this point, it's a bit tough to pick someone who has played a lot of T20 cricket, because I think we've picked all the really good ones. But I do think Brett Lee is someone who would have had a lot of success if he had played more.
That's a rogue pick.
It is. I mean, Lockie would have been safer, no?
Yeah. That is such a rogue. So Brett Lee in the IPL, wait, I think I can find it. His bowling average in the IPL was 43 and went at 7.5. Now, I think you're right. He wasn't peak Brett Lee. He was basically getting picked because he was Brett Lee at times. But he wasn't. I remember watching him, and this is weird because you would think he would be great, right? But you go back and you have a look at his domestic T20 record. He wasn't actually that good. And I can understand why you would pick him, but his international numbers are about the only ones that hold up. Everything else that he did, he was a little bit ordinary. But I do think some of that was because he just bowled when he was past his best. Like, you know, especially if you're a fast bowler, like I think he just went on a little bit too long. But I find it hard to have him ahead of Lockie or Rabada. Like, but it's yet again, Estelle just picks Australian players from the golden era and just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised to see Bingham make it. But hey, she wanted extreme pace. At least he's going to deliver with that.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, he does the job that she wanted, and also she just wanted Brett Lee in the side. Let's be very clear about this. She was really have a look at her team. She was terrified she wasn't going to fit an Australian Golden Era player in, and she's managed to do that right at the end. I actually would have gone Tate ahead of Lee. I reckon, like based on their records, not based on overall talent, but like, you know, based on their records, Sean Tate really, and I know if I remember correctly, I think Sean Tate might have actually had some great IPL years as well. So like Sean Tate was, and to be honest, he was playing probably past his best as well.
Yeah.
But he had a slightly better record than Lee in the IPL. Well, a lot better record in the IPL, but he had a much better record overall in T20 cricket. But yeah, you know, he's not golden era enough for Estelle. He didn't play enough tests. All right. I have to have another spinner, right? But the problem is that every spinner that I want is on the board. Don't know if I would have gone Ajmal, but certainly the other three are taken. And I was going to go with Shakib as my fifth pick because he's one of the greatest. He's one of the greatest middle overs. Opening bowlers in cricket history. And again, something that's a little bit slept on. People don't really think of Shakib as this, you know, great opening bowler in T20 cricket, but he's just got this incredible record. But the problem is, look at my list, and I've got Stark, Shaheen, and Stain. There's already going to be Stain or Stark is going to be annoyed that they're not going to get the new ball. But I'm okay with that because I want to take wickets up front. So I'm not against it. I'm just saying that there would have to be a lot of conversations to be said. So I kind of what I really need then is probably the best middle over spinner that's left on the board, and I don't think that is Shakib. I think I could go very, very rogue here and pick Benny Howell, and I am thinking about that. I'm wondering if I should just. I've got Rashid already. Do I want? I'm trying to think which direction to go with my spinner that makes the most sense. Hasaranga, no. Imran, okay. Oh my God, this is annoying. Okay, I think I'm just going to have to go Imran Tahir.
So you've gone with two leg spinners then?
I'm going with two leg spinners, but they're both
lefties.
legs. Yeah, and two lefties. Yeah, I'm very, very cliche. I think he has the most wickets ever in the middle overs in T20 cricket. It's ridiculous. If not, it might be Rashid now. Rashid might have gone past him. But he has something like 250 wickets just between overs, like 6 and 14 or something like that, at an average of 21. Road tested in the IPL as well, you know, and let's be honest, politically, for him to get into the IPL, even if he wasn't representing Pakistan, I always thought that was an interesting one. But he was such a good bowler, and I think a lot of people just don't kind of rate him all that highly as a bowler because he could go for runs occasionally. But in the IPL, he played 59 matches and had an average of 20.77. And altogether, I like Shakib. And maybe if I was picking a side properly, I would pick Shakib just because there's batting there. But I think that Imran Tahir, I feel more likely. I want to be able to take. So with my side, I should be able to take so many wickets all the way through that innings that by the time you get to the death, the game is already over. And so not that I'm not backing my team at the death, but yeah, I'm going to go Imran Tahir. Which is maybe a little bit rogue, but you guys had all my other spin options. I had Narayan, Rashid, Badri, Afridi, and then it's Tahir or Shakib and Benny Howell. Yep, Imran Tahir.
I would have loved to see you go with Benny Howell, but I don't think Imran Tahir is a rogue pick at all. I think it makes sense. I just don't see your combination clicking. Like if they're facing Shaheen and Stark, the batters, even though they still have it terribly hard, kind of do have it easy because it's the same kind of angle. And then you're giving them two leg spinners as well. So maybe it's a bit one-dimensional.
It's not because Rashid is a fast leg spinner. and is going to skid the ball on, and he's going to bowl later into the innings. And Imran Tahir is more of a traditional leg spinner. Because they both spin it both directions, I don't have any issue there at all. I think I actually think it's more, this is going to sound weird, I actually think it's more one-dimensional if I had picked Shakib, because then you basically got sort of just people spinning it, one person spinning it the same way.
Yeah.
If I'd felt more confident with someone like Ashwin, or if there'd been another off, or if Ajmal had still been on the board, I might have slipped Ajmal in. But I feel pretty confident with that. I'm not too worried about Shaheen and Stark, because I just don't think it doesn't matter if they're two left armers. No one ever complains that there's two right armers, right? So
Yeah.
I'm less worried about that. Yeah, I think, as I said, if I was picking an actual team, I might have just gone Shakib just to give myself a little bit of extra batting, although Stark and Rashid can obviously whack the ball as well. But I'm happy with Tahir in that position, and Benny Howell as my 5.5 pick.
Fair enough. And hey, Shaheen could bat at 5 for you. There's always that.
He might bat first drop.
All right, so last pick, and it's my turn, and I desperately need a left arm pacer. Now, my obvious first 3 picks that I had down over here were Stark, Shaheen, Trent Bolt. All of them are gone. So now I have to kind of think outside the box. I'm thinking, just the few names that are coming to my mind are Mitchell Johnson, Arshdeep, Wahab Riaz, Sohail Tanvir. Yeah, but I want someone to bowl with the new ball, right? Because I don't have a new ball bowler alongside Jasprit Bumrah. So I'm going to go Mohammad Amir. And I know that this is going to upset a few people.
You've got 4 Pakistanis.
Yeah, I've got 4 Pakistanis and an Indian. That's what this podcast should be named. But hey, I've seen Mohammad Amir bowl very recently also in the PSL. And this is someone who's a very shrewd cricketer, character aside. And initially, I always thought that Mohammad Amir was kind of one-dimensional, such that, he's great with the new ball, but kind of tapers off when, the death overs come around in T20 cricket. But this time, I saw him do really well at the death, and he was bowling to a field. That's what he said as well when I asked him that question in a press conference. So I believe that, I've got 4 of the 5 bowlers who won the 2009 T20 World Cup for Pakistan, plus Jasprit Bumrah. So it just makes that bowling attack all the more better. And I should win this draft.
There is a certain part of the world where you'll do very well with this draft. So I was looking him up. I can't find his numbers here, but I was looking him up. Well, actually, I wasn't looking him up, but I was looking up the best new ball bowlers just to see where everyone went. And so Ravi Rampal has the best figures. So he's got 101 wickets at 22 in the power play. Behrendorff has 108 wickets, also at 22. And Mohammad Amir is the 3rd best with, but he has more wickets than the other 2, 136 at 23. And then it's David Willey and Shaheen just behind them. So it stands up. Like you look at his numbers, and as you said, it's probably more a new ball bowler. But I think young Amir was certainly a good bowler at the death when he wanted to be. And I also think that if he could be bothered, because he can't always be bothered, let's be honest. He's not the most inspired person at all times. But I think when he can be bothered, I do believe that he is definitely a great bowler further into the innings. Maybe not always in those middle overs, but you don't need. You've got Bumrah and Gould, and also you've got both of your spinners are middle overs bowlers, so you don't need that. So you can give Amir 3 up the top in this side, and then give him 1 in the early part of the death, and you're golden, right? So I think that works as a combination. I don't have any issue with that, and I think he's more tested at the highest level than Behrendorff is. I think David Willey's a really good bowler, but I think a lot of David Willey's wickets have come in bowling with a new ball in England, which suits a bowler like David Willey. And Ravi Rampal, as much as I love late career Ravi Rampal, like it's a bit of a push to have him in. Whereas I think, we know he's of that quality, right? Like, also, I think that might surprise people, that pick, but I can understand it.
I think Mohammad Amir is one of those guys who really turns it up a notch whenever there's a big game around, right? Like he got Dilshan in the 2009 T20 World Cup final. He completely dismantled India's top order in the Champions Trophy, albeit that's ODI cricket. And yeah, I do plan to give him 3 overs, up front. But I just believe that, if I can get him motivated enough he'll win me whatever trophy these guys are competing for. And I'm fairly comfortable with my. In fact, I'm really happy with my quintet of bowlers towards the end.
All right, let's go through this. So Estelle went first, and she went Lasith Malinga, Samuel Badri, Sunil Narayan, Trent Bolt, and Brett Lee. So close. Such a good team. Behram went Jasprit Bumrah, Shahid Afridi, Umar Gul, Syed Ajmal, and Muhammad Amir. And I went Rashid Khan, Mitch Stark, Shaheen Afridi, Dale Steyn, and Imran Tahir. So, yeah, we've all gone a little bit rogue with our last picks, if we're being honest there. But, yeah, tell us who you think is the best. Tell us, what kind of players we missed out. Who did we miss out? Anyone? I've got Shakib, I mentioned before, who I think was a great player in T20 cricket and is probably unlucky to miss out, looking at this list. We talked about Lockie Ferguson. Obviously, Estelle should have picked him and didn't. Norkia may have been a push for me because I don't know how good he's going to be into the future, but I still think at his best he was, he's right up there.
Perhaps Tim Southee as well. He is the highest wicket taker ever in T20 cricket.
If someone would have said Tim Southee, I would have kicked you off the podcast. Rabada is another one that I thought probably deserved a little bit more. Boovy, I would have, if I hadn't have got Stark and Shaheen, I probably would have, if I would have had to go with someone like Lockie earlier on, I probably would have picked Boovy. I think again, Boovy's a player that people just absolutely sleep on, and should definitely be thought of more. We mentioned some of the others in the new ball bowlers. I think no one has Dwayne Bravo in here. Yeah. This is a controversial one, but I think Chris Morris is one of the greatest death bowlers of all time, and doesn't get the respect he should. We talked about Benny Howell before. As a leg spinner, and not the most popular man in the world anymore, but Sandeep has great figures. I do think, though, that his numbers don't hold up as well at the top level, and a lot of it is, dominating at associate cricket level. But he's certainly another one. Have we missed any other obvious names? We mentioned Glenn McGrath earlier, early career, Anil Kumble. Murali is probably another one that could have. I could have easily had Murali ahead of Tahir.
I think have Shane Warne in my list just as a rogue pick. If I needed a leg spinner and everyone was gone, I was going to go with Warne.
Yeah, I thought with Murali, I could see that, and with Warne, I think Murali probably was a better T20 bowler at that, just because his body was still largely intact and perhaps had a better lifestyle than Warne did towards the end of his life. Estelle, anyone else we're missing?
Maybe Hasaranga is close to.
Yeah, I mentioned him, didn't I? He wasn't far away from mine. I just thought he was a bit too similar, a kind of bowler to Rashid for me. And also, it's just early in his career, and he just got let go by his IPL franchise. I still believe in Hasaranga when he's not getting suspended or doing other things. But I was more on the fence with him, I think.
Yeah. I think he's not in the top 15, but kind of maybe in the top 25-ish.
If he has 5 more years like he's just had now, I think it would be hard to say that he hasn't had a better career than Syed Ajmal or Imran Tahir by that point, I would think.
But who knows, if he hears this, he's probably going to get a lot of wickets at the World Cup.
Who knows? I mean, he's going to be playing all of the games at the World Cup, right? Because
who
they
knows,
kind of
right?
Except for all the ones he's suspended for.
Yeah. I had 5 leg spinners on my list. He was one of them. So, I mean, he's definitely that good, right? But yeah, everyone who watched this show, let us know who you think won and why it's me. And if you enjoyed the episode, like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to both this channel and Jarrod's other channel. We'll be back with another episode of Crickpicks next week. That's all for now. Goodbye.
A lot of people complain that I'm not a former cricketer, and so that I don't really know the game. Well, you know what they can't claim? That I don't know desks. I've been using desks for years. I'm a collector of desks, old and new, and I am sitting on a new one right now. I am the Don Bradman of sitting at desks. So when I tell you that the E7 Pro next generation height adjustable desk from FlexiSpot is legit, this is like Michael Jordan talking to you about sneakers. This desk holds 160 kilograms. It is as stable as anything I've ever seen, and it has under desk cable management. But really, the main skill here is that this desk rises and falls at the push of a button, and it moves super quick. And it has so many settings that remember your favorite heights. It really does it all. And I could not recommend the E7 Pro from FlexiSpot anymore, even though I am currently sitting on one of FlexiSpot's BS12 Pro multifunctional, adjustable, upgraded fabric ergonomic chairs. My butt and computer have never been happier than when using one of FlexiSpot's products. So get over to their page right now for big savings.